So I'm still a little bit traumatized from last week because last week I had my first Jiu-Jitsu competition and uh it was an event. It was it was very scary. It really caught me off guard. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of the story. So I've been training Jiu-Jitsu for a little over a year, maybe like a year and 2 or 3 months. And I'm basically obsessed with jujitsu, right? So I'm still a white belt, and a few months ago, maybe like 6 months ago, people started talking about competing. Usually, some of the people who go to my school or my gym, they compete and they go into competitions. And some people started saying like, Marco, are you going to compete? And they were like, it's a good idea to um just get into a competition for the experience and whatever. So I was like, absolutely not. And then as I started, being more consistent, I usually go every day. I was like, you know what? Maybe I might just do it for the experience. Um, you have to know that I've never been into any contact sport. Um, and I've always been like I mean, I exercise. I do a lot of exercise. I'm very physical. I'm physically active, but like I never played football or soccer or anything. I played tennis for a little bit, but it's not really a contact sport. It was not. It was competitive though, and I think also when I did CrossFit, I think it was competitive. But I've never done something that requires contact or being, like maybe I don't want to. Yeah, maybe like masculine or something like very strength and strategy and contact related. My brother, um, on the other hand, he is though, but whatever. So I started doing jujitsu. I love it. I go every day, and then I was like, well, maybe I can just try it, for the sake of trying it and see how I do. So I was like very excited. I got into the competition. I signed up, and I was like, okay, lately I've been getting like more excited about, my jujitsu training and all these things, taking it more seriously. And I started to be, at some point, it started being very important for me. It was super important for me to go to the competition. And I was preparing, I was going every day, training a lot with my training partners and my other training partners who were also competing. And 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the tournament, or the competition, I started getting sick. I was getting like flu-like symptoms, and it was like, okay, on that third week before the competition, I missed a few days, and I was like, oh, I need to take it easy because I'm getting sick, right? And I started progressively feeling worse. So it was 2 weeks before competition, and I tell my coach, hey, like I'm gonna take this week to relax and to rest because I don't want to get worse and I want to be able to compete. A week goes by and I still feel really bad. I had started having like cough symptoms. I was really bad, right? So I just took I feeling bad, like feeling sick, I would still go and just like maybe watch the class because I was like either if I was not gonna compete, I loved to do so, like going every day. So that was the one of the things that I was missing the most, just going to training. And whatever, it's a week before competition. I'm feeling worse and worse. I had to go to the doctor because I started having a fever and had all these things. And basically I think they said I had a sinus infection, but I mean I had a fever, I was feeling awful, I was like so weak or whatever, and I couldn't train at all. So it's like one day before or 2 days before a competition, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to compete because I feel worse. I was taking antibiotics for like 10 days, and it was gonna be the competition, and I would still be taking antibiotics. And I think like it when I earlier this year I got sick with bronchitis, And it always happens when seasons change. And well, it has happened in the past when seasons change. And so I was taking antibiotics and I felt very weak. And I was like, and I was still coughing a lot. And yeah, I was still kind of like sick. But I called the doctor and slowly he was like, yeah, you can go slow and start exercising or whatever. It was like, let's say Thursday, and my competition was on a Saturday. So I started saying like, well, maybe I'm not gonna go. And then on Friday, I was like, you know what? Today I feel better. Um, I called the doctor, and then I asked a friend, and she was like, you know what? You can do it if you're. She asked about a bunch of things about my symptoms and my treatment or whatever. She was like, you know what? You can do it. And so I decided to go to the competition. You have to take into consideration that I hadn't trained for a few weeks. And all of a sudden, I went in. On Friday, I went and kind of like did a little bit of like, but not as intense as I usually train. And I hadn't done anything physical for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I went there. It was a Saturday. And I was kind of like freaking out. It was a lot of like mental because I was so excited to compete, to, get the experience. And at the same time I was so nervous, and then I had all this sickness situation, and then I thought I was not going to go. So it was a whole mixture of emotions or whatever, or thoughts in my mind. So I get there, my fight was supposed to be at 3:15 or something, and then one of my friends, it was like 1:15, right? And then my friend says like, Marco, you should go check your time, your competition time, because they are making them earlier. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. I go and check, and my competition changed from 3:15 to 1:56 or something. So I was like 20 to 30 minutes away from the competition, and I hadn't um changed. I hadn't um warmed up. I didn't do anything. So I went and changed very quick. I went back to the line. They checked my gi or my uniform, and then they um, weighted me. And I noticed, by the way, that I was below the weight. I mean, I was in another category, but obviously I couldn't change but I lost so much weight during when I was sick that I was like on the lower category. But that was fine. I was like, whatever. I wanted to train. I still wanted to compete. And all those little things started to make me a little like not anxious, but I was like, okay, all these things, and I couldn't process all these things that started happening so fast. And then they waited me. I go back and start taping my fingers because I have this finger, it's acting funny. So I was taping my fingers, and then all of a sudden they called me right away. I couldn't even warm up, no anything. I didn't have any time to think. So I go back to yeah, we start competing, and yeah, and that was it. We started competing and I lost. Spoiler alert. Um, Sadly, because I really wanted to win, but whatever. I lost. This guy he was really good. He won by points. Um, and I was like, well, and I saw the video and I was like, maybe I didn't that bad. And then my brother was there, my coach was there, my friends were there, my training partners, and it was a cool experience. And I didn't do that bad, especially with my first competition. And then this guy, he was really good. He was really nice actually. He started talking to me after the competition, and he was like, "Hey, how are you? You're really good. What's your weight?" And he was asking me a bunch of things, and I'm like, "Yeah." And now that I think about it, he might have thought that I was mad that I didn't win, but I was not. I was just in shock. As soon as we started the fight, I was in my mind. I was like, I will never do this again. Because I was shocked like right away, and I think it was like it all caught me off guard, and it all happened so fast, and I didn't have time to warm up or whatever. But at that time, I was like, whatever, it's fine if I didn't do this. Like I'll just go for it. But then as soon as I started the competition, the fight, I was like, whoa, what did I get myself into? Um, and then I was shocked, and I was so weak. I started shaking, and then I wanted to throw up. And then he was talking to me being so nice. And then I was not able to actually engage in conversation with them. And then he was like, where are we going? And then I was like, I couldn't even talk. And I was like, I don't know, because I was shocked. I was zoned out. So I get out of the ring or whatever they call it, like where the out of the fence where the mats were, and I sit on the floor and I wanted to puke. I wanted to vomit. And my brother, everyone was like, let's go to the bathroom. I had to like, they had to like kind of like carry me a little bit to get to the bathroom. I threw up 3 times, and I tell my brother, I need to get out of here. He takes me out and I started seeing white. It was a whole thing. Um, and then at some point I started feeling better. And I remember at that time I was like, I won't do this ever again. I won't do this ever again. But now I'm like, maybe I should do it again. So long story short, I was put out basically out of my comfort zone. Like that was the thing that couldn't be like further away from my comfort zone. And I'm glad I did it. I feel accomplished because I competed, and then I've been thinking about the competition like every day for the last, I don't know, 8 days, every day. And sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about it. And as I was telling the story, I got a little anxious. Like right now, as I was telling the story, I got a little anxious, because it was so scary, but it was so cool at the same time, and I really want to do it again. Um, which I don't know if I will do it, but I really want to do it. At least I want to practice, and then obviously the objective is not to win. I wanted to win, but it's also to compete and to challenge myself in something that I would never, ever, ever do. It never in my life I thought I would compete at anything, and especially at a jiu-jitsu competition, like fighting with someone, with another guy. Like I never thought I would do that. Um, so yes, I was out of my comfort zone, and it's, by the way, I couldn't record my podcast the last 2 Sundays because I had no time. I was sick, and then I had the competition thing, and I was like, yeah, I didn't have any time to record the podcast, and I wasn't feeling it, right? Um, and this is crazy because I think I've learned a lot in the last few weeks. Um, to have some more input in today's episode, which is about Cancer. I will get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to welcome you to the podcast. This is your host, Marco. I am a marketer, fitness coach, singer, astrology student, amongst other things, um, on a journey. And by the way, I just say those things because, like, I guess, like, for someone who doesn't know me, who's listening to this podcast, maybe you want to know a little bit of my background. I think it's a little lame, though, but I mean, that's the introduction I usually do. So I'm Marco, and I do a few things, and I'm on a journey to discover what it means to be human. I am on a quest to build a community that helps us believe in ourselves, unleash our inner power, and reclaim our voices through self-discovery. So if you enjoy discussing topics such as fitness, relationships, astrology, and human stories, please feel free to subscribe, share, or reach out. Together, through the power of stories and conversation, we can grow stronger as a community. And yeah, that's like I've been on this journey of, trying to find or unleash my quote unquote power, or my inner power, and reclaim my voice, or be a little more, um to dare a little more in the things that I do on my day on a daily basis. I'm usually, what I've learned from that fight is that I should play dissent is it defensive? I don't like I react instead of like act. And that's something I've realized in the last few, um, which I kind of knew, but I kind of like made it conscious. Um, and that's why I think in my life in general, um, I've been a little more reactive to situations than actually going and looking and seeking for things to actually happen, and making them happen, and maybe act ahead or before. Um, or or having a little more balanced, action and reaction dynamic, and not only react to situations in life. And I think in that fight, I was very reactive. I would just like wait for him to do things and then react upon that. But that's fine. It's part of the process, and I'm learning. But um, when you start realizing what your coping mechanisms are or your default mechanisms are and your comfort zone, when you realize what your comfort zone is, um, then if you want to change it, or if you need to change some things in order to have a more balanced life or a more fulfilling life, or have actually to accomplish the things that you want and feel good with yourself, um, I think that's a good start point. And I think that correlates, it's actually correlated with what I'm talking today, with what we're going to talk actually today, which is the Cancer energy in astrology. It's a fourth house. Cancer is ruled by the moon. Okay. And then from the Western astrology and from tropical astrology, we see it on the fourth house. Is a house that has less light, technically. Is that part like the is a part or the point when you're where your fourth house starts, um that has less light, and that is the one that is more intimate to you, and that could also be correlated with the relationship you have with your mom or your primary caregiver. Sorry. So um it's your inner world. It's the thing that is more close to you. And the fourth house represents that, what nourishes you, maybe your relationship with your mom, your emotional world, your internal world, the world that you feel, not necessarily your intuition or the things that you think. No, that part of when maybe you're quiet and alone with yourself, what do you feel? That it's a water sign. Um, so it's everything that has to do with emotion and with feelings. Sometimes in order to understand some archetypes or some energies in astrology, for example, in this case, if we want to understand Cancer, um, it's good to also understand the opposite and complementary of Cancer, which is Capricorn. So Capricorn um, is a Earth sign. So if you see the and it's actually is associated with the 10th house, the house that that part of yourself that everyone technically can see, that reality, what manifests, the things that you can see, right? So um when you understand the opposite is like water, and the emotion needs structure and needs earth, needs to have um grounding. um and it's also that area that maybe other people see from you. The opposite would be what no one sees, right? And what do you feel, not necessarily your structure, for example, your bones, your spine, your joints, the structure of your body, or the structure of anything that is material in life, any structure, but what is inside and what you feel, that's the internal world. And that's the Cancer energy. And when we talk about Cancer energy and we talk about the mother archetype, or the relationship with your mom or your caregiver, is that space where you feel safe, where you feel comfortable, where you feel chill, if that makes sense. Sometimes people say, "Oh, cancers are people who have like a lot of Cancer energy." I'm talking about the Cancer energy, not necessarily people, the Cancer people. But if you have a lot of Cancer energy on your chart, or it depends on the person and your experiences, obviously, but maybe people who are very sentimental or very sensitive, and then they um, uh, maybe they cry, or they're very into their emotions, um, very kind of like romantic in some way. Yeah, very sensitive. Again, not with a bad connotation, just um, saying a few words to understand the Cancer energy. Um, and it's also about the where you feel safe, right? The space where you feel safe. But sometimes if you for from a caregiver perspective, it's like sometimes or from the crab symbolism is like that outer part that protects you. um it's not necessarily for protection, it's to give um structure and to hold yourself together, but not necessarily to protect you from something that is outside. Because like that narrative or that way of thinking is like thinking that there's a threat outside. um and it's not necessarily, it can be for some people, for the interpretation of the Cancer energy, but also it's from what's within and what you need in order to internally feel good, not because there's a threat outside, but because you feel good, you feel at peace, you feel comfortable. And sometimes where you have that safe space, um which would be like kind of like your comfort zone, it's hard to get out of it. And that's what sometimes you need your agency, your responsibility, and your um, um the next energy, which is Leo or fire energy, which is to go for things, right? um to understand the things that fundamentally make you feel good, and the things that nourish you and that you need for yourself, and then be vulnerable, open your heart or let your guards down in order to show who you really are on the inside, and in order to feel good, in order for your essence or for your sun or for your heart to show and to share your gift with the world. um but going back to the moon and the Cancer archetype, it also talks about your emotional world, but also your emotional mechanisms and the ways you feel or react to things. Your first one, your instinct. And at some point, in from the astrological perspective, is like you start integrating that, and then you start not being a slave to that. It's just understanding it from a higher perspective, and understanding again the things that you need that make you feel safe, understanding what's your comfort zone, and then challenging yourself a little bit to um tune into your talents, tune into your sun energy, in which is the opposite, not the opposite, but it's like, well, yeah, maybe the opposite of the moon. Um, because like in from my astrology course, I learned that the moon is a past point, and then the sun is an evolutionary point. So it's like understanding what you need, your foundational ground. Again, if you also, the roots and the foundation for your emotional and your internal world to be okay and to be fine and safe. And then getting out of that comfort zone, quote unquote, and tapping into your sun energy, which is a Leo energy, which is that fire energy that um, helps you find pleasure and helps you enjoy your existence, and then share that with the world and with the people around you. So um when I started doing when I enrolled for the podcast, sorry, enrolled for the competition, someone's calling me and then it cut me. It made me unfocused. So when I enrolled for the competition, I was like, I know it. Now I know things that, I know what I need to feel good and to feel safe. And then I can actually go for things that are a little more daring and a little more outside of my comfort zone. But because there's a talent, or there's something in me that actually can do it, you know? And that it can apply for everything. You just need to like practice, do the things that you need, um, uh, be responsible and have agency over the things that you need to practice in order to find that, um, in order to go for those things that you want. Um, for in this case, like a competition or anything you want to accomplish. Like in my case, for example, I like singing. So well, for maybe recording a song and let my voice be heard. Or for someone else, it can be starting a new project and or talking to someone or approaching someone and then letting yourself be seen. And share your gifts with the world. So this is everything I had, uh, everything I have for today. I'm glad to be back, and I'll see you. Technically, I'll see. Wait. I'll see you next week, but I want to take the um. Wait. I need to take the the tarot card today, which I hadn't done in a few days. I was about to forget that I wanted to do that. Um, so let's do that very quick. Because I think it's a cool idea that I missed a few days ago. Oh, a few episodes ago, I missed it. All right, so let's see. I think this is the card we're gonna hold. All right. The Six of Swords. I'm gonna show it to the screen. Six of Swords. Let's see. This is crazy. Actually, very crazy because it's like a little boat, a squared boat with a woman and a kid, and they're like rowing, and they're about it's in a lake or something, right? And you can see mountains and you can see the water. Talking about water, we're literally talking about the emotion, about energy and the mom archetype. So this is actually very crazy that I actually got that, the mother archetype, what nurtures you. It's crazy that I actually got that that card. Maybe is it a full circle? I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so while you're there, I'm trying to find what it says here on the card. And it says the Six of Swords represents leaving behind tumultuous waters for a future that is calm and promising. After being imprisoned by her own father, Danae and her young son Perseus escape. Perseus will eventually grow to defeat the Gorgon Medusa. It says upright, it says healing, movement forward, stability, escape, journeys, and reverse it says feeling trapped, instability, cancel travel, abused, unresolved issues. I don't really read right now. I'm barely starting in the tarot cards with the tarot cards. So I just read cards upright. But it says living something that is tumultuous. And sometimes like things that are weird but are familiar. And I say weird, but sometimes we encounter situations in life where situations in life that are not that doesn't that don't really feel good, but we still stay in those situations, in those zones because it's familiar. It's what is it's what's common or familiar to us. And getting out of those situations sometimes is hard, but you need that responsibility and that decision making abilities and that thinking things from a more rational perspective in order to get to, again, new waters, to a different emotional state, to a different place in your life. I actually loved this tarot card. I think it's perfectly suited for today. It talks about the emotional world and what's familiar and the things where you want to go in life next. All right. I'll see you next time. And sorry for being absent for 2 weeks. And I hope to be back next week. I'll see you. Bye bye.